If we have everybody, I guess we can go ahead and start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
We could go through that first. I get you said no referrals, right? That hasn't changed.
Right. Nope.
I guess we can go to the membership stuff first then.
I have the text up, so I can share the screen.
Okay.
And we can kind of go through it. Let me know if you need anything bigger. So what I did is I just took this directly from town code. It's town code chapter 4 about your committee, and I just grabbed the text in its entirety and pasted it here so we can make any recommendations for changes right in the document. But so title, I'm guessing that's probably fine the way it is. And did anyone get a chance to look at this?
Yeah, I went through it and I thought that for being legal terms, it's pretty easy to understand. So I was actually pleased that I could actually go through it.
For those of you who did read it, did you have any issues with what the purpose is, A through E?
No.
No.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward, and I think it covers most of the things that you guys deal with. So this part, the formation of the committee, the membership and terms of office is probably the part that you'd have the most recommendations. So right now, A reads that the board establishes the committee. It has 5 members appointed by the town board. And as it stands right now, it says 5 residents of the town, including but not limited to representatives from the greenhouse, crop production, cash crops, cattle, grapes, vineyards, horse farms, organic, produce, vegetables, specialty crops, grocery, farm market, farmstead, nursery, or dairy segments of the industry.
Those are, the way that I read it, just a suggestion, but it's not even saying that you have to involve in any of them. It is just suggesting that it should be part of, correct?
I think, yeah. I think it was suggesting that the people in the committee should be somehow associated with the agricultural community. And yeah, I take it to be examples, but. And I don't actually know where this came from. I don't know if it was just made up. Gary, do you remember?
Once the committee was formed, I think it must have been drafted up then, but I don't recall seeing it before to any large degree.
It could also have been pulled from the state.
Yeah, I don't remember, because I thought in the past we had discussed that the members didn't even necessarily need to be town residents.
We had discussed it, but the code was never changed.
Okay.
So, because that's a town board thing, because it's basically changing our town code. So yeah, I mean, that's why we're doing this, because we've talked about it a lot over the years that maybe that it doesn't need to be that way. And oddly enough, Gary, I know you don't live in the town, but you are an appointed member of the Ag Committee. The town board appointed you.
Yeah, that's
so they
what I was
contradicted
thinking.
the code by appointing you.
And that also kind of, while it hasn't prevented him from being on the committee, but that if that is true, that kind of prevents us from having any outside people, like we talked about having somebody from OCs or FLCC or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I know every time this committee, you guys have talked about this, I feel like the majority of you, or I guess all of you, have never taken issue with anyone where they live. Just, are you interested in agriculture in the town of Canandaigua? That's pretty much what I
Yeah.
hear from you guys every time we talk about this.
Yeah.
So other than removing the part that says residents of the town of Canandaigua, does any of that other language need to be changed?
Well, the only other thing that we discussed about changing was the appointment of 5 and having it specifically say 5 instead of a group of, so that we can plug the number based on interest.
Yeah.
I thought we discussed also that maybe to extend the number from 5 to maybe 7 or something like that. I realize we're having a tough time getting it filled with 5 or 6 even, but
Well, you have 6. Again, town board appointed 6 people to a 5-member committee.
right.
And,
Could it be
Does there
least
have to
5?
be a number in there?
Usually there is, for example, the, well. take
Can we
that
say
back.
a minimum of 5?
You
Yeah,
could, so
something
like
like
the
that.
Parks Committee has, I think, 7. But it states that in the language for them. All of the boards have a specific number too, and it states that in the language. Like the ECB has 7, the planning board has 5, the zoning board has 6.
so
it
if I
does
remember
range.
the discussion last time Doug was part of it, he said the problem of putting too large of a number in there is if we have no interest at some point,
Then you
we
don't get
cannot
a
get
quorum.
quorum. So he suggested to leaving it open and, or as Bob is saying, a minimum of. Then the quorum can be dependent on 5, but we are not restricted to 5.
So,
Well, like Bob said, can it just be a minimum of 5?
Right?
we can suggest that.
Well, could we have a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 7? Up to 7?
Are you worried that you're gonna have more than that interested in serving?
Probably not.
No. I mean,
mean, you
if for
probably
some
don't
reason,
want,
if
you
for
don't
some
wanna-
reason,
yeah,
if for some reason we had so many people that we couldn't decide, then we can pick the best candidates to be on the committee, I think, and somehow do that.
You can
yeah.
have some
I don't think that's gonna be an issue, though.
no,
No, well, and kind of like Linda, you can always have other people who are regular visitors to the committee and who provide input. The only thing they can't do is vote.
Yeah, but in her case, as every time that she participated, she has voted just as everyone else.
She
Not that
has,
it
but it's
changes
not ever
anything.
been part of the record.
Okay. I just don't
And I-
want anyone to be discouraged of attending and
No.
participating because.
I know, and
they
I
don't feel
know
part of
you
it.
guys
Right.
wanted her to be, it's just I couldn't count her vote.
Okay.
Because she's not an official member, even though we all want her to be and value her input. But that's why we want to change this, so.
Got it.
So if we switch it, so the committee shall be composed of a minimum of 5 members. I mean, you're right, you don't want too many members because then you come up with a quorum issue. So do you leave it open and deal with it if it ever becomes a problem, or do you want to cap it? At first I was thinking you probably don't need to, but
I don't
If it
think,
ever is a problem of that we have too many and we cannot get quorum because they are not attending the meeting, we can always put in a point in there that they will be unappointed if they miss X number of meetings. I don't know if that's needed or not.
yeah.
well, they can be alternates like they have on the zoning and the planning and some other committees also, but there's a possibility for that.
Yeah. And then the board reappoints you guys every year. So,
Every year, or every 3?
well, you have terms, but the committee itself, I don't know if this is a requirement or if it's just the way our board does it, but every January during the organizational meeting, there's a section on committees and they reappoint them every year. So it may just be a formality, but I mean, like the terms still just stand as we keep track of whose term was renewed on which day. So it may just be kind of a formality, but they do mention the committees during the organizational meeting. Gary, I should probably let you say it because you're a town board member if I got some of that wrong.
No, you did well on that. They do on that. The only thing that I had a question about, and I think we've discussed it at the last meeting maybe, is why the Ag Committee has a 3-year term and most of the other committees have a 5-year term.
Yeah, I don't know. You can make that suggestion too. So this part you want to take out, right? And have it.
And I don't know if it matters or not. I mean, all those specific examples in there, if we need to have all that, or if we just
The agricultural community.
yeah, or
like-
landowners,
A minimum of 5 members from the agricultural community appointed by the town board.
yeah, because I think that
Yeah.
agricultural community could also, that could include, that'd be broad enough to include landowners that are renting to farmers too, I would think. That would make sense to me.
Yeah.
So that would pretty much get rid of all that and just read, the committee shall be composed of a minimum of 5 members from the agricultural community appointed by the town board.
We like simple text.
Yep.
Now, to be the devil's advocate, if we run into it, I don't think we ever would, but just a possibility. If people from the town of Canandaigua want to serve and there's no openings there because of others we have on it, what do we do then?
Nothing. Unless the
So by
town
not
board
having a
wants to
minimum,
change
we
it.
kind of avoid that problem, correct?
Yeah, that's true, Fernando. I didn't think of that.
Don't we wish we had that problem?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say,
Yeah.
we don't have that problem, so.
I'm guessing that most committees at the town probably don't have that issue, do they? Any of them?
No.
No.
I mean, yes, they're just banging down my door asking to be on the committees and I turn them away and say there's no room. No. I wish I had that problem. I mean, we do have a lot of great committee or people on our groups, but there is turnover from time to time and when someone steps away or leaves after the end of their term or just has had enough time on the committee that they want to leave, we do have a hard time filling those spots. Our Environmental Conservation Board has had 2 vacancies for a long time now. So officially, they don't have 7 members. I think they have other participants right now, but and I know there's someone leaving, and we're having the same issue with our planning board. They have an alternate position that's been vacant for about a year, and someone is leaving also, so they will now have 2 vacancies. So yeah, we're gonna send out a press release either later this month or early January or both, trying to get some interest in people coming back, getting involved. Yeah, and some of our other committees, like our town board, our environmental conservation board, planning board, and zoning board, you must be a resident of the town. That's a state law. We can't change that. But all of our other committees, we kind of always let just general community members join, as long as there's an interest in serving. We haven't turned people away for any
Is
of
it
them.
common? Is it very common that you have people from outside of the town joining the boards?
Yeah, I think we have one or two CIC members that are not town residents. We have a person on our Public Works Committee who's not a town resident. Before the Drainage Committee was dissolved, we had someone on there who was not. Some of our project teams had a couple people here and there who aren't town residents, so, yeah. Most of the members are, but it seems like sprinkled throughout our committees, we have non-residents. And sometimes we purposefully invite them, like when we were working on our comprehensive plan, we sought out city residents to participate with us, so that we would have, someone from neighboring communities. I think it's a good thing.
Yep.
Yep.
I was just curious if the actual residents don't always participate, how motivated are people from other places instead of volunteering in there?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the staff. A lot of the staff at the town hall don't live in the town. Actually, probably more than half.
Hmm.
We've got Newark, we've got City of Canandaigua, we've got Hopewell, Town of Seneca, me, Bristol, Bloomfield. They're all over the place. Okay, so are you good with A? Is there anything else you'd like me to change?
No,
On
I
it?
think that simplifies it quite a bit.
Okay, so B, members
The
appointed.
only, so one
Okay.
question with that though, so when it says from the agricultural community, so do you guys think that's broad enough if we want to have, say, someone like we had talked about having somebody from FLCC or from something else? Is that,
Yeah, you're right. So someone's gonna say, how do you define agricultural community? Should we change it to a phrase that, or a definition that's used somewhere else in code, like the agricultural industry or something like that?
I don't know what would be used in code, but what we could do is add some examples, just like they had before, so that we expand it to landowners,
Produ-
researchers, or educators, or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then
yeah, example of producers, landowners, educators?
or industry professionals, and
Industry professionals.
Does producers, does that oh, I can't spell. Does that include producers of like any kind of agricultural product, including like livestock and crops and stuff, or does it need to be?
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
the only ones that may not associate themselves with that term is horse owners or boarding facilities. They may not consider themselves producers, but crops
think-
and
I think,
livestock.
Landowners
forestry-
cover.
I think
Landowners. covered
forestry could easily, you could say, would fall under landowners.
Yeah.
But yeah, like horse barns and stuff definitely are considered agriculture, but I don't know where they fit underneath the words we just used.
Well, landowners probably,
Maybe, yeah.
but it also says not limited to, so.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, because I know I'm not thinking of everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that means we can still, I mean, I don't think, they weren't watching the wording of everything very closely before anyway, so we
Right.
weren't really following.
Right,
along.
because before it said including but not limited to.
Yeah, so I
Right.
think that's
Oh,
okay.
but I did see that it says representatives from, I like that. Oh, but then you get produce, okay. I might have to play with the wording.
That's fine.
Oh, I don't know. I'll just leave it for now. I might try and come up with a better phrasing for that. So B deals with the length of the term.
Are we gonna
Uh,
suggest to adjust it to 5 years as other places in the town, or assume that people will keep re-electing or reappointing?
What makes sense to you guys?
Well,
Well, you're
after
right.
after whatever time limit, are you totally off the committee or?
No,
No,
you can
no.
ask to be, so what we do when everyone's term, when someone's term is up, we, towards the end of the year, like we're doing this week with some of the expirations coming up in the other groups, we're emailing them and saying, hey, your term expires. Do you want to renew? They do.
All right,
We add them back to the list with a new term, with a new term and the new expiration date. And if they don't, we mark it vacant and we'll advertise for it in January. So that's just how we do it.
okay,
So you automatically are in for however many years, but it doesn't mean you can't say after 2 years, hey, I don't want to do it anymore.
all right. But you do have the option at the end of the term to re-up.
Yep.
That's
So do
okay.
you want me to switch it to 5?
I would say the only reason for doing that would be to be consistent with other committees and be just seem like we're a little bit more cohesive, but
Yeah, I think, I mean, I haven't looked, I don't know what they all are, but I think a lot of them are 5-year terms. The Parks Committee is the longest. Theirs is 7 years.
we probably don't want to go that long because it's hard to know what's going to happen by then.
And we have people who are renewing. But I think if you make it too long, it may seem daunting to people who are interested in becoming a member.
Yeah, that's true.
But you're right, if it's too short, it makes it seem like it's less important in a way. At least sometimes that's how I look at it. I'm not sure, but do you want me to put the 5 in there and switch it?
What does the group say?
I would support the 5.
Yeah, I would too.
Because this committee was created in March of 2017. So if it was 5-year terms, it would be next year for the first renewal.
Besides, we have a couple that are being renewed anyways, Bob and Tim, right?
No, I think that was last year. I don't think there's any up for renewal this year.
Oh, I thought I had it for the September meeting. We had that Bob and Tim were
Oh,
up
maybe
for
we did.
renewal.
Maybe I already edited it. I'll check it. We're working on it this week, so if they are, I'll see it.
And from the creation, the only one that hasn't renewed was Mark, correct? Or was there anyone else that didn't renew?
Yeah, I think Mark's the only one that left. So I would need to change this part. The rest of this language is talking about how it was created, so that doesn't really matter anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
So the appointments end on the 31st of December, no salary. Okay. This is just kind of the rules of procedure. Every year you need to pick a chairperson. You're supposed to pick a secretary. And right here it says from among its members, which you already are not doing. So That should be changed.
To just exclude from the members and just say,
Yeah, I think so.
All right,
Or maybe it can say from among, either from among its members or something else. Or would it be a point or whatever? I don't know. We'll just leave it like that. This will have to go to the ordinance committee anyway. You guys can clean it up.
Well, we probably should follow the same guidelines that they do for the ordinance and the planning or the ECB and things like that.
Well, the boards are different because they're governed by the state. So how they do things is.
No, but I mean how the terminology goes for who's taking the minutes.
Okay, let me check and see what it says for the board. I think it talks about at the board's discretion, they can hire someone or, but that's like, it's because it's for the boards, but let me see what the language says. I'm not gonna do it right now, but I'm gonna make a note to look into it.
okay. Yeah, the more consistency we can give, the better, but without having to complicate things for anyone.
So on that note, maybe for now, we just leave it like this. And then if I see that it sounds different in the other ones and they use different verbiage, I can copy that instead, and let you guys see what it says.
Okay.
I would be okay.
I mean,
with
this is pretty simple. Shall select a recording secretary.
Yep.
You'll adopt rules and procedures, and I think officially you guys have just said like the Roberts rules.
Right.
Keep records. And I think this one's, what do you guys think about D? It says keep accurate records, which is kind of nice because it doesn't actually say minutes, it just says records, so that you're open to have it be just notes or minutes, however. You know, like in the past, we haven't always had minutes, we've usually just had like summary and notes, if anything. Now I know, Kim, you're keeping minutes, but you're probably fine to leave it the way it is unless you guys want to change it.
I'm
That's
happy
fine.
with what it is, but
you remember a few years ago when we took a look at the list that the development office uses to decide whether or not items are referred to you guys, and you added things to the list and made it a little more clear. I wonder, you know, none of this says adjacent to farm parcels. And
it
that's one
says
of the
adjacent
criteria.
to TDRs, right?
Yes,
Yeah, right
adjacent
in
to
the second.
preserved lands is on here, but it just says described as farm parcels or preserved land or adjacent to preserved land. Do you want it to also say adjacent to farm?
I think so,
Land.
yeah.
Because you already do that anyway. They already send it to you. If it's like if the land in question is next to a farm, they send it to you guys anyway. They actually send it to you anytime it's within 500 feet of an ag district too.
Yeah, yeah, that's better. And Gary, we had discussed about the importance of being able to see what's going on with the with sewers and stuff like that.
Right.
Can we add that in here somehow?
Sewer
You
and
want to
water.
add that it's that we want to review expansions on water and sewage plants, or just to be informed?
To be notified, I got the map of the sewer, where the sewers are at the present time from the county there about a month or so ago. And I was gonna get Bob a copy, but I haven't had a chance to get the copy because it's the large one on the sewers, but I don't have anything on the water yet. I haven't been able to receive that yet, or where the water lines are, or the water line map is for the town.
Yeah, I think we should be notified somehow, and I don't know the wording you'd put in there, but any changes in water and sewer could affect.
Do we want to say any changes, or any changes in water and soil within the agricultural district or the protection area?
Well, then you'd get it anyway. Well, you might.
Affecting agricultural.
Well, I think we'd have to be more specific.
All applications made to the town board, zoning board, town of appeal, including changes in water and sewage plants that are described as farm parcels adjacent to farm. So we're putting the same area that we get plans for development. We just say all applications, including an internal application that might be water or sewage. Does that sound doable?
So like if the town plans a water line extension,
Correct,
but nobody's doing any private development applications, you
correct,
guys should look at it.
correct. I think that's what you guys are saying, right, Bob, Gary?
Yeah,
Yes,
Maybe that needs to be a separate sentence then, because this one talks about applications made to these boards. So maybe there needs to also be a sentence about town projects. How would you say it?
well, it'd be the town in the county, because the county operates a sewer system.
I don't think we can require that the county,
No, but what, it goes through the planning committee on it for water line extensions and also for sewer. Because that's what Bob and I was talking about, right, Bob?
you can't require the town board to do anything.
Do what?
This committee can't require that the town board does anything. So if the town board is.
No,
going
no, no, I
to-
didn't.
No, no, I
I'm
just need, I'm trying to think of how it's written. So like you're saying that if the town's gonna do an expansion on a sewer line, committee.
Or water.
It shall be referred to the committee. That's this committee requiring a voice on that. I don't know how that works. I don't know if we can write that. But there's, yeah, I don't know if we can include that. I'll make a note. I'll find out. Okay. So I have a note to ask if there's a way to include that somehow and how we write that. So the rest of this paragraph says, just talks about the timing of how you would receive the referrals. Okay, and the rest of these deal with the details of it. So the development office will give it to you. Those boards can also refer anything else to you that they think you should comment on. See, it's talking about how you have to provide a comment back to them. That's those recording sheets I make for you guys and I send back at the votes and everything. And it's all formal. Your comments have to be in keeping with the comprehensive plan or other documents. Basically, you guys can't go rogue. And E is basically just reminding you that you don't have authority to hold up an application.
Right.
So is there anything in A through E? Good with those?
I'm good with
I think
those.
it's good that they've included us in some of their decision making and asking for input from us, so I wouldn't want to discourage that.
Yeah, and like this one kind of talks about some of the other stuff. If, you know, if any of
Right.
them think you should comment on like a water expansion or something, they can ask that you review it. Okay. Is this it? No, okay, we got a little bit more. Additional powers and duties. You advise. So you can advise the county farm board.
But only if they ask. We cannot ask them to refer on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I don't think so. So it says you can advise them on agricultural district formation or establishment, modification, and that's pretty much all that A says. It's all in relation to the agricultural district. B, I don't really know why B is in there.
Does
I
the
guess-
C there kind of refer to the water and sewer that we were talking about before?
No, it's kind of like if there was a
That is
project
more
that
the
was gonna,
R2 versus R3 or whatever that is, right? If they're
yeah,
gonna-
so like if there was gonna be a change to zoning districts,
Okay, okay,
like, yeah, the underlying zoning district on a property and it was gonna impact agriculture, you guys could have a say in it. Kind of like,
Okay.
the agricultural overlay, that changes the zoning a little bit, so you guys have a say in it. A scenic viewshed overlay, you could comment on that kind of stuff, the things that might change how land is zoned. I guess B is just a reminder that you should implement the agricultural enhancement plan and you can recommend things to the board to help make that happen. Let's see. No, oh, and here's more information on C. Yeah. So letter D is kind of like, it's kind of like one of the ones up there saying that you have a right to provide comment on pretty much anything that affects agriculture. And you can provide like an official memo or official comment that could be shared. Doesn't mean they have to listen, but you can provide it. I guess it's just saying it wouldn't be overstepping your bounds to provide an official comment on something going on in our region or beyond.
It's very encouraging to know that we can be ignored formally.
Right? But, you know, our town code can't make anybody else do anything. It's basically just governing ourselves. Not, I mean, any other entity. Does anybody have any issues or suggestions on this section here? 4.6, additional powers and duties?
Not to me.
I
don't
have
have
a
any.
feeling you're kind of limited with that anyway, you know? Okay, these are the last two sections. It already mentioned the annual report up at the top, but it's just a reminder that you're supposed to turn in something every year. It doesn't say what it has to look like or how detailed it has to be. It could probably just be like a simple paragraph or something, just kind of a reminder, hey, this is what we did. And I think that's kind of what we've done before. It hasn't ever been super formal.
Nor
I think-
rejected.
I think one year we just sent the implementation plan with the updates. That works too. I guess this is just in there because it's supposed to be. That's it. So pretty much your only suggestions fall under these two sections. 4.3.
Yeah, they, who
And
who made
4.4.
part of the committee?
Which was all we were aiming for. And
Yeah.
Oh, we did suggest that in this section. So 3 different sections, but
I am good with that.
so my question to you guys is, are you officially asking that this be referred to the ordinance committee in its current draft form with these suggestions?
We are.
The ordinance committee certainly would, want you to present it to them with very minor changes if we have to on it. Hopefully we don't have to make any, but I can't speak for the other members of the ordinance committee, because once it becomes, town code, and we can always bring it back to change it, but it's, much easier if we can get it pretty well taken care of initially.
Okay,
So are you suggesting that we give it a little more time and have someone else review it before?
Like who, Fernando?
I don't know. I'm just trying to understand what the committee is referring to.
No, I mean, if anybody had any, on the ag committee has any other suggestions or anything like that, like to see them taken care of before they come to us, so that we don't, it doesn't get held up for a period of time or anything like that.
yeah,
So
so
that-
if you're good with it, we can send it, but if you think we need to spend more time with it,
I mean, because there really wasn't much for changes.
and then also we probably should vote on it. If you do, just so it's official.
You said we need to vote on it,
Probably.
Yeah, we should.
so we have to make it a motion to accept the changes made tonight.
that you all agree that this is what you'd like to send to the ordinance committee.
I make a motion, we all accept these changes to send this to the ordinance committee.
I second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
All opposed?
Okay. And it might be helpful to have kind of like a little summary page that reminds or tells, I should say, the ordinance committee why you guys are doing this. You want me to write something up and send it to you guys through email? Kind of like
Sure,
along
that'd
the
be
lines
nice.
of,
That'd be
yeah,
good.
like
Yep.
what we've all talked about, or what you guys have all talked about over the last few years, or it doesn't match with what the appointments are, and they don't match with what the language says, and trying to make it make sense and simplified. And
Sounds good.
allow interested members to participate or something like that. I'll send an email and you guys can let me know so that when it goes on the next ordinance committee agenda, there's a nice little summary page to go with it. Okay. All right, let me. Bob, do you want to work on this, talk about this at all?
Yeah.
I opened it just in case.
Yeah, I wanted to fill everybody in on it. I don't know if I did send out the minutes from that meeting just so you guys could look it over. I know Fernando, you did. I don't know about, well, Gary was there, so. Guess we just need to talk a little bit more about, what our thoughts are on this or what direction to go. There was some pushback on it, as I expected there to be. I do think that the ordinance committee could have some good input on it, so we should get together with them to have a discussion once we discuss it a little bit more ourselves. The biggest question that comes up that I expected, and I kind of do question this myself, is I do struggle with taking the rights of any landowners away of what they can do with their land, even though we don't want it to be developed. It's a kind of a touchy issue. We do want to preserve farmland, but I've also grown up in Victor. I saw them really try to do that, and it became nothing more than open space with big houses around it. So there has to be. We want to be careful. We don't try to get into something where we're just trying to preserve land that nobody is actually going to farm. I don't have a perfect answer to it, but what are we supposed to tell people that say that, nobody wants to rent my land, or I can't farm it anymore, so I want to sell it. But we say, well, it's farmland, so we shouldn't build on it. That's the question that's going to come up, and I don't have a good answer. Telling somebody that they need to sell their land for half of what they could get for it. So I don't know what other comments you guys have about that, because that's the biggest thing that we're going to hear from anybody. And I can understand their feelings about that.
Yep.
Oh, I agree with you. It's hard to tell somebody they can't sell their land if they can't farm it anymore, and nobody else wants to farm it.
I think it makes a kind of a good point for like the TDR program. I still don't totally understand it, but I think something like that could work good in some of these kinds of situations where So the land that's already being farmed isn't at risk as much. It's either some older landowners that don't have anybody to buy the land or don't have anybody to farm it. Some of that stuff is the land that's more at risk of being sold, particularly if the farmer can't afford to buy it or doesn't want to buy it. That's renting it.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you're talking farming versus housing, we're gonna lose just about every time because housing has much bigger buying power than farming land. So. But I do hear what you're saying.
I don't like what I'm saying. I'm just saying that's what people are gonna ask.
Yeah.
That's the pushback that we'll get. So I don't
Well,
know how we can what we can do. I have a friend, or someone I knew from high school that's in the real estate business, and he works a lot more and out and farther in Western New York, and they've done a lot out there in certain areas apparently to preserve farmland, but also sell some for houses kind of strategically. And he said he was willing to get together sometime just to talk about what they've done in some of those areas. So I think I might do that just to see what I can bring back to the group,
okay.
get some ideas.
Would we have to, or should we come up with some alternatives to selling the land? I don't know what that would be, but as a committee, can we help the landowner check out other avenues to go, or, should we?
Yeah, because that was something that Doug keeps bringing up, but I don't really know what those avenues are. I don't really know what else.
Unless we're able to find a way to create a fund to, let's say that is not a PDR per se, is not the full thing, but if someone wants to sell the land because of the reasons that you denoted in here, but a farmer cannot buy it for the price that the owner can sell it to development, can we have a fund that supplements the purchasing agreement? So the farmer is paying for agricultural land, the owner is receiving full value for his land, and the land just gets, in a way, secured for agricultural going forward. And I don't know where those funds come from, but it's kind of the way to say, landowner, you don't lose any value on your land. Farmer, you don't have to pay more to be able to farm this land, and now it's preserved.
Did you mean kind of like it would still do what like the PDRs do? There would be an easement on it to prevent
Correct,
development.
but instead of having to apply the owner of the piece of the land and going through the state regulation, it will be when the farm is, or when the parcel is going to be sold, then you just compensate for the difference on an internal fund through the town. And if we can have some type of state support for that, that would be great. But I don't know if they will be willing to have kind of this open PDR program for when the land is for sale.
Yeah. Yeah, because right now what we have that offers funding is the state PDR program and the federal program. The federal program pays out 50% of the difference in value. State program, as you guys know, pays out 75%. And that seems to kind of be it right now that we know about.
But maybe we can fund it through the transfer of development rights that Doug keeps talking about or promoting.
Yeah, so if we had a TDR program, it would kind of work the same way, but instead of the money coming from the state or the feds, it comes from developers. Kind of like, fine, we'll let you develop here, but you have to pay into this fund, and that'll be used to preserve land there. Same kind of thing, but the funding source is different. And what you do with those funds could still work the same way, you know, as,
So there's been a lot of talk about that program for a few years now.
Yeah.
What has to happen to start it? Or,
we have to have, so there's a sending area and a receiving area. And it makes sense that I get the two confused, but one of them is the area where you're saying, okay, develop here, and the incentive is you get to do more, you know, than what you usually would be able to if you pay into this program. I think a lot of the holdup for the town was that some people were worried that because we were talking about using the uptown area, which is where we'd like to see redevelopment, because it's where we already have infrastructure. It makes most sense to have people develop things there, like apartments or businesses and stuff. There was a worry that if you had this TDR program in place, it could potentially deter developers from coming to that area.
Because
was
they have to pay.
Because they'd have to pay, and that they would just go somewhere else.
well, that's good. That's good too then.
Right? Well, yeah, but you know, development it can be good too, right? We have to grow, but we want to grow in the right spot. So, you know, we've got the new form-based code in Uptown, which is actually getting a lot of interest. It's a way for us to be able to offer a little more anyway. It can be, development could be a little more dense than it could before. You know, they can have a couple of more stories than you would in other parts of the town, like an apartment, you know, stuff like that. The setbacks, how far away from the road something has to be, are small there. So it's an area where we want people to go instead of other areas of the town. And I'm, you know, I kind of feel like, well, form-based code kind of did that, but that was where we originally were talking about doing TDR. And then of course, the receiving area, if I have it right, I get the two, sending, receiving, but the area where the money could be spent, we'd always said would be the strategic farmland protection area, that map we have with the red outline. So I think the farmland protection area would still be the area to receive funds. But the question is, how do you decide where you put the TDR restriction on? You have to pay into this to get that. And how do you decide what that extra is that they could get? No one ever agreed on what those things would be, and that's why it never went anywhere. So it still sits. It could be resurrected, a new conversation, try and figure out, you know, how it would work and where and what the details would be. I don't know if it would look different now that we have the form-based code, or if we could still do it anyway. I don't know. But we haven't talked about it in a while in the committees. I know this committee, you guys talked about it. The Economic Development Committee talked about it. I think the ordinance talked about it too, or was this before ordinance? Did you? But it's been a while.
Yeah, it's a tough situation on this, like Bob indicated before, you know, for the people that own the lands and things like that. So much as that is tied up as their retirement and, you know, and they certainly can't compete with developers to buy the land. And this has been kicked around for a long time because nobody seems to get a handle on it, how this can help resolve this situation somewhat.
But this kind of brings it back to, is there a truly useful point on this committee is to think about that one and to bring a feasible solution to that, because without that, anything else we can do is just, in a way, patting ourselves in the back, because we're not going to be truly useful until we figure that issue.
Mhm.
Not to discourage anything else or what we do, because I think that hopefully it's appreciated. But at the end of the day, if all we can say is, yeah, we'll lose some agricultural land with that project, but we cannot do anything, or we have no tools to prevent it, then we're just informing people that we're going to lose the land, but not being effective at preventing the loss. This is not an easy issue, but this is probably the only issue that truly matters for us to spend mental time trying to bring creative options.
Bob, is this something that the friend of yours you're talking about, he may have faced out there where he is? And we
Well,
can get input?
that's what I want to see what he's got to say, because he told me, and I don't know, maybe um um you know, I don't know how effective they've been in those areas,
Right,
but
right.
but I'm willing to hear what he has to say, because he said they've done some of both to make it work out. So I think it'd be good to reach out to some other people around the state. I don't know. You have any idea, Sarah, of who other people that may have some information, how they've done some things in other areas? Most places haven't been very successful doing this. That's the problem.
Yeah, so I think there's a community over on Skinny Atlas that's trying to do something. But I don't think it's done yet, and I don't know. I don't know if it was just agriculture or if it was trying to reduce development across the board. I can't remember. I can look and see if I can find what it was. There's also just communities that do conservation easements, regardless of whether it's on like a patch of forest or farmland, but just general conservation easement programming that they fund themselves. Like the town of Warwick is the one I'm thinking of that does it. And they have, I think it's a transactional fee on real estate transactions or something like that that helps to fund it. Kind of like in the town of Canandaigua, if you build a house, you have to pay $1,000 into the parks fund, and then that money is used by the town to create new parks and do stuff with our parks. I just looked at this, so I'm sorry, I can't remember the details of what they're doing in work, but they have a way that they're receiving revenue into this fund to build it up, and then they use it to do basically what the state does with the PDRs. They place conservation easements on land, and there's a financial incentive to the landowner. And it can be, I don't think it has to be ag land though. It can be, lands that are identified for conservation, like we have in our open space plan too, just like with the ag plan. But so it's not really a district, but they use, a map that shows things they've already agreed on that would be good to conserve, and then they have a fund for it. So
it doesn't necessarily prevent the loss of all land, but the TDR could be based on the agricultural area. And if you're going to lose some land, at least you get some money out of it to protect some others within the same zone. So nobody's asking about the discouragement of development in other areas in the town.
So you're basically saying the sending and receiving areas would be the same thing.
Yeah, let's
So
say
if you
that they
wanna
want to
develop-
develop. Yeah, go ahead.
Mhm.
So if they want to develop the parcel, let's just talk about the parcel here in Hickox, 30 acres. Well, they have to put in something that will later on help protect the corner between Hickox and 5 and 20. So yeah, we use within the agricultural area, within our protection area, if they want to build, they pay to the fund to protect other plots within the same region. And we just have to be proactive at trying to protect the larger pieces and develop the smaller pieces, even if they are a loss of agricultural land, just try to minimize to the ones that will have the least impact for farmers.
That's an idea.
Because otherwise we're not protecting anything. So here at least we protect some.
Well, I think it's a tough question and we all have to think about it. And maybe between now and the next meeting or something, we can think of some ideas or talk to people that may have worked on this and get their feelings too, from other communities.
Yeah.
I mean,
Then the biggest key too really is, and I think we are lucky in this area at this point, is having good viable farming operations, because they're going to keep the land in production.
there was a program of succession and how to help farmers with that problem of the succession of their land. And maybe we need to work on that a little bit, is find other farmers that can pick it up. And I know the price isn't the same, but I don't know.
Just following on the comment that Bob just did, I mean, the key is having farmers that are willing to invest in the land and keep farming. Is there any way that we can propose tax incentives for farmers to farm this area, where we find ways to redistribute tax burdens of the land and take it away from the farmers so that they are more encouraged to buy land for farming? I know that that has to be approved in completely different levels, but can we spend some time getting ideas on how to create incentives that are truly incentivizing the farming of the land? And solve the problem through economics and people actually wanting to farm it.
Yeah, I've kind of thought of that too. I'm sometimes reluctant to make those suggestions though, being a farmer. I feel like I'm asking for free stuff or something. But any way to make farming or any business really more viable or attractive is a good way to make that happen.
Absolutely.
So I just thought of something. So could this overlay be, these down here at the bottom was really where the whole issue was lying. This part that was in there or the applicant has demonstrated an action to advance agricultural protection. And that the committee agreed with it. That could be paying into a fund instead of saying they can't develop. Could the wording of the overlay district language kind of almost turn it into a TDR program, like you were saying, Fernando, in the overlay, in this overlay district, which is basically the farmland protection area? If they want to have a proposal on land of 7 acres or greater, then they have to pay into this fund or something. I mean, it doesn't exist, but you know what I mean? Like, use this.
Who though would have to be paying into that? The developer?
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens with a TDR program. The developer who wants to do the development in that area where the TDR program exists has to pay into it, to the TDR bank. So that's kind of how this thing was worded, to allow the planning board to accept some other action besides
So will
saying
that
that
make
it-
it more restrictive? Because they wanted the wording to be fairly
Yeah,
loose
to
so that
allow-
they could be creative.
right. No, I guess it would, but I mean, there is language in here that kind of allows some creativity. But I just wasn't sure if, you know, if this could be turned into something like that, but
It would really make it more specific, wouldn't it? If we did
Yeah.
it that way.
yeah, you're right, it would.
I,
It would
I'm not
take
saying
away
that's,
their-
I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying it would be more.
The way it's written right now, if the developer said, hey, what if I do this, whatever this is, if the planning board agrees to it, and the way it's drafted right now, if you guys agreed to it, they could say, okay, yeah, go ahead and do it.
So there might be,
Whatever it was, it is kind of up in the air. It's whatever.
if there was a true TDR program, there will actually be associated standard fees, or will it still be
Yes.
open to the board?
No, well, the TDR project, the one that we have, the draft that we have, there's no leeway. It is what it is. It's like per acre or was it per unit maybe, or square footage. It was standard. There was like a calculation that they would have to do based on what they're developing, what they're building.
I guess the first thing to evaluate was what was the biggest resistance to that project, and then work from there on finding solutions to the things that were more objected, most objected, whatever the right way of speaking in English is.
Yeah.
So I agree with everyone that has said this is touchy and a hard topic, but I think this is really where we should spend a fair amount of energy bringing ideas, because this is what will make the value of this committee.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing from you guys is you're not ready to try and do anything with this overlay language or send it back to the ordinance committee. And that you might want to spend some time relooking at TDR or some other way of changing this, or just other options in general. Spend some time coming up with some other ideas.
Yeah, now, what do you guys think about meeting with the ordinance committee to get some ideas together with them, or would you rather come up with someone on our own first?
I think the ordinance committee, if you guys want to meet with the ordinance committee, it should be on a drafted code.
Okay,
It will be
I mean,
good to
that's-
understand what was the biggest holdups that they had before for other plans. So if we're gonna propose to make this into a TDR or anything like that, whether it's through Doug or someone just to really explain us what was the holdups that they had in the past, I think that would be good. So we can really think about how to address some of those issues.
And if you get a chance, Bob, it'd be helpful if you can contact that individual to see, what his thoughts were or what he was talking to you in regards to
yep,
about in the western part of the state.
yep, I'll try to do that in the next week. or so.
Okay.
Maybe
Yeah, because
when-
I'd certainly want, whatever came before the ordinance committee, I'd certainly like to see it be the thought process from this committee, and not the ordinance committee drafting up different things for you. And you not be maybe satisfactory or satisfied with their thoughts, because as you indicated, Bob, and you're right, there was some pushback and from one of them was from an existing farmer, and that did attend a meeting that day. So it's been a period of time anyway since we've had this, so there's really no rush on this getting before the ordinance committee, because we wouldn't be able to probably get to it till maybe February or March, because the end of the year and with the organizational meeting the first of next year and things like that. So
Yeah,
All right, so we'll definitely keep thinking of different options. Let's just be open to multiple ideas, and Bob is gonna be sourcing some, but let's try everybody to source different ideas so that we can keep discussing this one. At least that will be my point of view.
And if you guys think of anything in between now and the next meeting, you can always just shoot me an email and I'll write it down. And keep notes to bring it back to you during your meetings.
Well, our next main meeting would be a couple of weeks anyway, right?
yeah,
Your next meeting falls on,
We're having a
December.
regular December.
December 3rd or something.
no,
no, we went to a different time, didn't we?
it would be December 9th.
Oh, the next week, okay. That's about 4 weeks, I guess.
It's the second Thursday. Because you guys switched your schedule.
Okay.
And that, I mean, I'll send it, but that's back on the other Zoom, the regular Zoom schedule that's just repeating. This one was different because it's,
Schedule.
yeah, off the normal schedule. But the other, I'll send it before the next meeting to make sure everybody has that other one again.
Right.
Okay, so just to recap, my marching orders from you guys with the language dealing with the Ag Committee itself is to create a little summary page saying why you guys are sending this to the ordinance committee, and then share that with you guys. And then once you guys say you like it, we email it to the ordinance committee chair and the town planner to ask that it be placed on their agenda. Does that sound right?
But
Yeah, I think so.
And I'm not doing anything with the overlay language as far as the ordinance committee
Right.
goes, right?
Right.
Not at this
Right.
time.
And for your next meeting on the 9th, It looks like you guys are just gonna have one referral. Probably. So you don't have a whole lot that you have to work on.
I don't have any problem having short meetings every once in a while.
Although we can easily fill it up by looking at the implementation table from the ag plan. You guys haven't looked at that for a while.
And we're gonna have to
And
do
with
it
it being
before
a
you
December
send
meeting,
we gotta do it before the end of the year, right, to make that.
yeah, you
report.
probably should spend some time looking at it so you kind of have an idea of what you want to focus on next year. I know we had a conversation a little bit in the fall. I feel like you guys talked about next year a little bit, but you might want to revisit it.
I think we got a lot of work ahead of us just with what we've been talking about here tonight at the last. Come up
That
with a
could
good
be,
alternative.
that could be what you decide to focus on for next year.
Yeah, this is quite a big project, I think, so. Well, so I guess I'll look into what information I can get and then encourage everybody else to see what they can find. And we'll see what we have at the next meeting.
Sounds like a plan.
All
Would
right.
you think you'd be able to email us with a little recap of what you talked to this guy about?
Yeah, as soon as I know anything, I'll make sure everybody knows ahead
Yeah,
of time.
because it may help us think about some things too, if there is an idea.
All right, well, if there's nothing else.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay,
Second that.
All right.
The only thing
Alright.
everybody's agreed on tonight.
All right, well, everyone have a good holiday.
Yes, you too.
thanks.
yeah.
You too, everybody too.
Yeah,
Okay,
Bye.
good night.
birthday. Everybody
All
got
right.
their expensive turkeys, have they?
I didn't get mine yet. All right, bye everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.